Christmas in the Highlands is definitely a good film, but it did take me about half an hour to get into it. I'd say for the first half an hour, give or take, I genuinely thought I wasn't going to enjoy this. But eventually, I did like it. We do have some pretty traditional Scottish scenes, but the Earl has an English accent, and I don't really know why they made that decision or why they wouldn't make him Scottish. That's not to say every Earl of a Scottish castle has to be Scottish, but it would have been more believable. But we do have some gorgeous shots of Glamis Castle, which is very, very nice. I'll talk more about this in a moment, but there won't be any spoilers as I do recommend it, and if you've maybe started watching it before and you gave up pretty early on, I'd say stick with it. It definitely does get better. This was released in 2019. It's directed by Raen Dewar, written by Louise Burfitt-Dons, and we have a cast including Brooke Burfitt as Blair and Jeannotte as Alistair McGregor. And I'll be honest, one of the reasons why I didn't really enjoy the beginning is that it's kind of hard to believe. I feel like it's very forced to get to the main narrative, and this is because Blair lives in the States. She lives in New York, and she works for a pretty nasty boss, to be fair, and her career isn't going the way she wants it to, and on the way home she bumps into a sidewalk Santa, and the next thing we know, there's a mysterious gift at her front door, and it's a perfume bottle, and this is the perfume Heart of the Highlands, and she thinks that this perfume is so beautiful that it's exactly what her boss would want for them to be able to sell. So she lets her boss smell it, and her boss says, you need to get me the recipe for that perfume. And when Blair Googles the company, she realises that they're located in this remote castle in Scotland. That part of it I don't necessarily have a problem with, but it's the whole evidently Santa Claus was magically giving her this perfume bottle on her doorstep. I don't buy it. I don't believe in it. That's not to say I'm not a fan of films that have a lot of Christmas magic in it, but that's all we got from that aspect of it. That's literally it. So they either should have leaned more into the magical aspect of Christmas, or they shouldn't have included it at all, and she should have found another way to find this perfume bottle. I don't know what that would have been. It would have taken some thought, and I feel like not a lot of thought was given to the beginning of the film for how we get from New York to Scotland, that part of it. I don't believe it for a second. And then the way she was just able to enter the castle and pretend to be a documentary maker, making a documentary about how they make their perfumes. It's really unbelievable and honestly absolutely very badly written. But once she's inside the castle and she meets the Earl, it does get a little bit more interesting. And she does pretend to be a documentary maker, and, well, not everybody is completely buying her story. Will she get away with it? Will she get the formula? And obviously we have the romantic aspect between Blair and the Earl as well, but I won't say too much about that. I don't want to give away too much of it. That's the part of the story that I enjoyed the most. Visually, it's really beautiful. We have some gorgeous costumes, a lot of beautiful decorations. Obviously, the castle itself, absolutely stunning. And all of that worked really well. So I'd say by the point when we get to the castle and we've established what's going on, that's when things start to become good and things are better written and a lot more believable and a lot more enjoyable. The characters are very well written, the performances are really good, the festive aspect is quite strong. It's not the most festive film, but it does have a strong, I guess, celebration, festive holiday feel to it in certain scenes. And we do have some more traditional Scottish moments as well, which was obviously quite good fun. But yes, the Earl is English. And I will also say, and I don't know if I just became used to it, but for a lot of the film, some of the accents were not as good as some of the others. But, not that I have a problem with the Earl's English accent, that's absolutely fine. But it's just the decision to make him English in a film that's definitely about Scotland. I don't know why they made that decision. I feel like it wasn't a good decision, because it meant that unless we have scenes where somebody's playing the bagpipes, it didn't feel like a Scottish film. So if you're going to have Highlands in the title, you need to make more of an effort to make it feel Scottish. And they just didn't. But there were a few scenes here and there. So that didn't work very well either. But for the most part, I enjoyed the narrative and I liked the characters. There are, as I've mentioned, various other elements that were not done right, were not done well, at least in my opinion. But the story and the characters were strong enough that I'm happy to overlook those aspects, and I'm happy enough to recommend it. It's not the best experience. There are issues. There are definitely significant areas where things could be improved. But I can't deny the fact that at the end of the film, I came away from it thinking, actually, I quite enjoyed that experience. So not perfect, a little bit irritating at times, but once it gets going, Christmas in the Highlands is actually a pretty enjoyable film, and ultimately, I'm happy to recommend it.